the qualities of being in the middle of a season, we have that staying power, the stability, potentially a little bit more slow, potentially a little bit more rigid, more integrity, that commitment to be sturdy, stable, unchanging, grounded. Welcome to Promethea Astrology. My name is Aleena, and I am a full-time professional astrologer with a physics BS from Yale. I'm also a jeweler, and you'll notice that I have this little headpiece on. So I would love to know what you think about this, and if this is something that you would wear, or if I'm getting a little bit too out here, or maybe just for special occasions. Let me know what you think of this. I also made these earrings too, and my jewelry is available for sale on my website, so you can check that out. But today I am here to talk to you about the fixed signs in astrology and what it means to be fixed more broadly. So, whether or not a sign is cardinal, fixed, or mutable is one of the modalities or quadruplicities in astrology. So, this is just one of the different qualities that the signs of the zodiac have. So the zodiac signs are all either masculine or feminine, cardinal, fixed, or mutable. They also all have a element associated with them, fire, water, earth, or air. There's of course the constellation and the symbol, and then the planetary ruler. And these five qualities sort of help us understand and define what the zodiac signs are and get into that more fundamental archetypal nature that they embody. So, to just define quadruplicity more broadly again, it is a little bit counterintuitive that it's called quadruplicity because quad evokes the number four, but there are only three modalities: cardinal, fixed, or mutable, three quadruplicities. But there are four iterations of each of them. So when you divide the circle of 12 zodiac signs into four, you get the three quadruplicities. So there are four different types of each of the three quadruplicities. So for instance, today we're talking about the fixed signs. So there is fixed fire, fixed air, fixed earth, and fixed water. And similarly, there is cardinal air, cardinal earth, cardinal fire, cardinal water. Mutable earth, mutable water, mutable air, mutable fire. And not one of these modalities or quadruplicities is better than the other. And I would say this for all of the planets and the signs and the different archetypal energies present in astrology in general, that there's always two sides to every coin. So there will be qualities that the fixed signs are stronger at, and there will be things that are more challenging for fixed signs. And each of the quadruplicities has its own strengths and weaknesses. And even if you have, for instance, your sun, moon, and rising are all in fixed signs and you really identify with this quality of being fixed in astrology, you probably have placements in more than one of the quadruplicities. So it's not that any of us is just one of these things. In fact, in your birth chart, all of the 12 zodiac signs are present, but maybe the planets at the moment of your birth were mostly in fixed signs, or maybe they were mostly in cardinal signs, or maybe you have an even spread. So all of this to say that you are not just one thing, and this is just one quality to be aware of that exists in astrology. So what does it mean to be cardinal, fixed, or mutable? Cardinal is at the beginning of a season, fixed is the middle of the season, and mutable is the end of a season. So the really fundamental quality of what these quadruplicities mean has to do with that beginning, middle, and end energy. And if you practice Western astrology, then you probably use the tropical zodiac. And this zodiac is not actually in alignment with the constellations anymore because of the precession of the earth, the little wobble of the axis of the earth. So rather than being aligned with the constellations, the zodiac signs are aligned with the equinoxes. So for me as a Western astrologer, a Hellenistic astrologer, Aries is the beginning of spring. And that is why it is cardinal. Cancer is the beginning of summer, Libra is the beginning of fall, Capricorn is the beginning of winter. For the fixed signs here today, we'll talk about the middle of the season. This is Taurus, the middle of spring, Leo, the middle of summer, Scorpio the middle of fall, and Aquarius the middle of winter. And just broadly, generally, you can think of the kind of symbolic qualities of the beginning, middle, and end. What does it mean to have the energy of something that is in the beginning? These are signs that tend to be stronger with initiating things, getting things started. I really think about cardinal signs as relating to influence as well, kind of pushing things out, this like birthing almost, this beginning, renewal. Maybe cardinal signs, therefore, are not so strong at sticking it through to the end. So that's sort of like potentially what the fixed signs might be stronger with. So the qualities of being in the middle of a season, we have that staying power, the stability, potentially a little bit more slow, potentially a little bit more rigid, more integrity, that commitment to be sturdy, stable, unchanging, grounded. These are sort of the qualities of what it means to be fixed. And then lastly, mutable at the end of a season. These are signs that are stronger with changes, very go with the flow, mutable, adaptable, easily this or that. On the shadow side, could be a little bit less grounded, a little bit maybe flighty or non-committed as much. And this is very broad and it will depend on the planetary ruler and the element and all these other things. So we'll dive into the details of that now. One way that we can really start to uncover the meaning of what it means to be fixed is to look at the 4 different versions of the fixed signs in the 4 different elements that are associated with each fixed sign and see what they have in common. So we'll go through one by one, starting with Taurus. Taurus is fixed earth. So this is the middle of spring. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, which is the planet of beauty, pleasure, harmony, romance, sensuality, sexuality, all of these fine, beautiful, feminine things. So the as an earth sign that is fixed, earth of the 4 elements is already the slowest, most stable, most grounded. And then on top of being fixed earth rather than mutable earth or cardinal earth, Taurus is the most grounded, the most stable, the slowest potentially. And as an earth sign can literally be very connected to the earth and gardening, but also earth is sometimes associated with food. But because it's a Venus ruled sign, which is about pleasure again, we are delighting in earthly pleasures for Taurus. So this is often nice foods. And the fixed quality of this is that Taurus is often quite committed to the things that they like. They know what they like, the foods that they like, what they don't like, and they can be a little bit consistent or unchanging with those desires sometimes. There's also this level of integrity that they apply to things like food and their desires, where they are true to themselves. And oftentimes with food too, they can really value the quality of the food and understanding the impact it has on the earth or their body, or just the quality of the flavor or the amount of delight and sort of finesse and art that you can bring to things like food and earthly pleasures, which again can be applied to things like gardening as well or other sort of sensual delights. So Taurus is very much committed to the things that they like and living the life that they would like, and is not so apt to try new things or change things up. Just again, archetypally as a fixed sign, if you have a Taurus sun or something, that doesn't mean that this is the only thing that you are and this will always be you no matter what. This is just broadly Taurus, but like no one is just Taurus. Taurus is an archetype that is not a human. So like even though maybe you have a Taurus sun or a Taurus moon or something, that doesn't mean that this is the totality of who you are. And everything that I'm saying will describe you to a T, because there will be other planets and placements that you have that are not Taurus. So broadly, generally, archetypally, Taurus, fixed earth, ruled by Venus, committed to the earthly pleasures and having integrity with the things that they enjoy and value, especially around sometimes environmentalism or the quality of their food. Then we have fixed fire, Leo, middle of summer. So fire as an element is more associated with energy, passion, sometimes kind of drive. It's really, really energy. Leo is also ruling the heart, whereas Taurus is ruling the mouth. There's also a body part that each zodiac sign is associated with. So there's another reason that the sort of especially food things come to mind with Taurus. And then with Leo, with the heart, we really have this like integrity, this heartfelt integrity. And Leo, ruled by the sun, is all about self expression. So for Leo, it's going to be so important to be true to yourself and to express yourself. And this is sort of like, I think of fixed fire as like a candle, right? You know, fixed earth is kind of like literally the ground itself, like a mountain. It's just solid and stable. And that is Taurus, just absolutely holding it down. Fixed fire, the candle, that undying flame. It's almost like commitment to integrity itself. Fire is also associated with leadership and bravery, so Leo can be quite a strong leader. But I think the way in which fixed fire particularly embodies this quadruplicity of being fixed is through being true to the self. Fixed also has this association with being true. It's like integrity and truth and stability. And for Leo, that is coming through in their passions, fire, and also as leaders and ruled by the sun, particularly in a way that's committed to self and self expression. Then we have Scorpio, fixed water. So fixed water is going to be like an iceberg, right? When water is still, it is frozen. And water is more associated with emotions, mysticism, healing, intuition, and things like that. So to be fixed in an emotional way, sometimes Scorpio gets the rap for being one to sort of hold on to feelings or to not forget. Emotions and emotional imprints from people and interactions really stick with Scorpio. Also, they can be quite deep. Again, we think of the iceberg. What you see on the surface is not nearly representative of the totality of the thing. And like an iceberg, can also be quite dangerous. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. Mars is our planet of war, aggression, violence, the warrior, things like that. But again, it's a water sign, so we're taking all of this into the realm of the intuitive, mystical, emotional realm. So sometimes Scorpio can be tending towards fixation, but often with things that are very deep. Scorpio does not like to be on the surface with things. So sometimes this can be people, and sometimes it can just be interests or passions, but oftentimes it will be something that is hidden or secret or occult or taboo. Scorpio will get really deep into the things that other people think that you shouldn't look at. They're very interested in going places that you're told not to go. And this is sort of that Mars bravery, but in more of this like emotional realm sometimes. And to apply integrity, this quality of being fixed, and that sort of keyword being integrity that goes with fixed, sometimes Scorpio will be associated with keeping secrets. For instance, if you tell a Scorpio a secret, if they promise you something, if a Scorpio promises you something, they will not falter. They will keep that secret to their grave. If a Scorpio has built trust with you, if there is that emotional connection there, they will not falter. They will not waver. They can be quite ride or die. And that's like the relational, emotional integrity that Scorpio carries. But on the other side, if they decide that you have violated their trust, for instance, ruled by Mars, also the planet of splitting and severing, Scorpio will be quick to cut someone off, and that's it. And they don't look back. It's just over. And that will be a decision that is final. This is like more of that fixed energy, but in sort of the opposite way. And then lastly, we have fixed air, Aquarius. I think of fixed air as like a cloud. It's air, but somehow also a solid form, but at the same time, not, and floating above everything. So air is more associated with the intellect, social, playful, mental stuff. So Aquarius can be fixed sometimes in their ideology or interested in ideas and having intellectual integrity. And the way that this often looks for Aquarius will be quite abstract. For instance, an earth sign will be more concerned about the real world and how things shake out in real life and what is practical and what makes sense and how can we apply this on the ground. Aquarius, as an air sign, is not so concerned with that. They are more interested in broader intellectual, mental structures. This is ruled by Saturn, the planet of structure, and also time. Aquarius can also be quite oriented towards the future, kind of the futurist in a sense. Also ruled by Saturn, Saturn's also the planet of isolation, distance, cold, hardship. So sometimes Aquarius can be kind of isolated or even prefer to be sort of in their own world. As an air sign, they are very social and oriented towards social structures and what is best for the collective, also kind of the archetype of the humanitarian. But they tend to enjoy thinking about that from a distance, not so much in this kind of watery, emotional, felt connection way, more of a thinking about what would be the best for everyone. And spending a decent amount of time in their heads thinking about that can become quite fixed on the ideology that they have deduced is the best for the collective or something like that. And the ideological integrity is sort of the key word that we can get for the fixed air sign. They are true and consistent within the philosophical, social framework that they are committed to. So then, of course, we can look at the shadow sides of each of these things. So to take it back to Taurus, the shadow side of fixed Earth. The shadow side of being fixed in general is just this maybe tendency towards being a little bit stubborn, a little bit rigid. So for Taurus, sometimes they might not like to try new things. They might be closed off to new or different things and they know what they like and may not be interested in anything else. Or they're just quick to say no and stay in and do what they know that they like. Taurus the bull, famous for being a little stubborn. And on the positive side, of course, delighting in earthly sensual pleasures and bringing that comfort and stability and grounded energy. That's more of the positive side. So there's two sides to everything. Then Leo, fixed fire. So the shadow side of fixed fire, the self-expression and everything. Leo could sometimes be a little bit maybe stuck in who they are or their self concept ruled by the sun, maybe not open to other ways of being or seeing others as potential leaders or drivers, fixed in the self. And on the positive side, this can be beautiful, heartfelt, earnest leadership. On the shadow side, this can be maybe a little bit rigid or not aware of others or prioritizing their own internal flame and fire over those around them. Scorpio, fixed water, already kind of touched on some of the shadow sides here as well. Sometimes can hold grudges, can really hold on to things for a long time and not let them go. This is the shadow side of fixed water. Or sometimes their obsessions and fixations on things can be a little bit not helpful to their relationships or even themselves when you dig into things too deep and it starts to take away from other things that you might need to be doing or focusing on when you only want to dive into those deep, dark places. Sometimes that can be a challenge in your life. And then Aquarius, fixed air, sometimes this ideology that they are committed to, they could be a little rigid about. Might not be open to different ideas. Can be kind of hard to introduce new thoughts for an Aquarius potentially. And so all of these things are just one little piece of the zodiac sign. So I'm making this video in conjunction with many other videos. It's a part of my playlist breaking down the zodiac. So I have gone through each of the planets. So if you want to learn more about each of these fixed signs, I would recommend that you look at the planet video that I made of the planetary ruler of that sign. So if you're here because you're interested in Taurus, then you might want to watch my Venus video. If you are here because you're interested in Leo, you might want to watch my video on the Sun, for Scorpio Mars, and for Aquarius Saturn. And that will give you much more insight into the zodiac sign. I also made a video on gender and astrology, so you can check that out for learning more about the masculine and feminine signs. So Taurus and Scorpio, the feminine of these fixed signs, and Leo and Aquarius, the masculine of these fixed signs, to learn more about that. And I will be doing a deep dive into each element after this, or maybe at the time you're watching this, I've already done it. We'll see. And then I will make a playlist diving into each of the zodiac signs in totality. So what I'm trying to do is cover a broad foundation so you're aware of my sort of intellectual, mental, philosophical framework of astrology. So as we get into more complex ideas, you can refer back to these more fundamental ones. So this idea of being fixed is one of these fundamental qualities in astrology that's important to be able to articulate and understand as you're differentiating and understanding each of the zodiac signs. So be sure to refer back to all these other videos if you are interested in really deepening your studies. And then another really important thing to touch on with quadruplicity is that signs that share the same modality are either square or opposite to each other. So like I said at the beginning, the 4 fixed signs form a square to each other. So each sign is either opposite or square, depending on which signs we're talking about. And this is significant energetically as well. So the square in astrology is a tense aspect, and the opposition is the most difficult aspect. Opposition being like Voldemort, Harry Potter, one of us is going to die, there's no way to reconcile this. Square being like, this is an extremely tense situation, I could cut the tension with a knife, but maybe we might be able to make something out of this. Maybe we could create something from this tension. It could be generative conflict, a little bit less impossible to resolve. So each of these signs, each of these fixed signs, sort of has a challenging relationship to the other. Anytime signs are aspecting each other, for instance, these square signs are all aspecting each other because they are square or opposite to each other. They have a relationship. They're able to see each other. That's what the literal etymology of this word aspect means. And so they have something in common. That's why they can see each other. They share the quadruplicity. But when you share the quadruplicity, even though you see and recognize each other for that, for instance, the fixed nature of Taurus sees and recognizes the fixed nature of Aquarius, but the way that Taurus wants to be fixed is in this earth way, and the way Aquarius wants to be fixed is in this air way. So even though they understand each other and they understand this fixed nature that they share and they can recognize that in each other, the way that they want to be fixed is so different. Like an air sign is never going to relate to that grounded earthy quality of Taurus. So even though they both recognize, like, I'm holding on to my ideas and I'm holding on to my sensual pleasures, they don't recognize that in each other. The fact that they have different elements still creates this kind of tension where it's like, why would you hold on to that? That doesn't matter. And so there's the fact that the quadruplicity makes this square is also giving us some intel on the tension and relationship between these signs. Whereas, for instance, signs that share the same element, like Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo, are the earth trine. Zodiac signs that share the same element will be trine to each other. And this is the most harmonious relationship. So the fact that they have the same element makes them really able to see and connect in this more fluid, harmonious way. They share both the same element and gender. And that type of relationship is much more easeful and harmonious. So that's all that I'll say about the fixed signs for now and quadruplicity, but look out for my next video on the mutable signs. You can subscribe here if you want to be notified when I release new videos, or if you just want to support the work that I'm doing. You could also book a reading with me if you like. I offer 60 or 90-minute readings where we can get into who you are and also what might be coming up in your future. I specialize in timing and talking about things like career peaks or helping you identify what cycles you're in and when they might shift. You could also follow me on Instagram at Promethea_astrology, same as my handle here. I am in Philadelphia, so if you're in the Philly area, I offer workshops in real life where we get together and talk about astrology, and I offer little mini readings and things. It's such a good time with these workshops. And you can check out my website to learn more about any of that, promethea.design/astrology. Thank you so much for being here, and have a beautiful rest of your day.